Joining me now in a two box. Ooh, that sounds like fun. We got Todd Sheets. We got Alfredo Ortiz. Todd and Alfredo, welcome. Good to have you guys with us back again, ready to roll. Let's start with Todd, then we'll go to Alfredo. Looks like we got a new Fed chairman coming in, likely to be confirmed by the Senate because Warsh was already a Fed governor, so he'll sail through the Senate. Very interesting. President Trump asked questions about, did he say he was going to cut rates? And Trump did the right thing. He said, hey, that's up to him. I just think he's the right choice. I'm not going to get into that. He's going to do what he has to do. But a lot of people thought it was going to be, somebody else who's been in the media like every day for the last 6 months. We all thought it was going to be Kevin Hastert. Why did he go to Warsh? What does it mean, Todd Sheets?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think this is a home run decision, potentially a grand slam. You never know until they get in there and how they behave and that kind of thing, which we've seen before. But I think this is very much in line with the Scott Bessent decision. I would guess he weighed in very heavily on this. And I think Trump has been very open to Bessent's input all along through many different things. And I think he made absolutely the right choice. I mean, this is somebody who wants to come in and make major reforms at an institution that has become way too big and controls way too much of the American economy. Just by controlling interest rates, in my opinion, that's too much. If we could get rid of that, that'd be ideal. But now it's buying long-term bonds, this $8 trillion portfolio of long-term investments that they made to try and influence the long end of the spectrum, the oversight of the regulatory system. It's like we've talked about before. They have failed over and over again throughout the history of the institution. And instead of being reduced in scope, they've been rewarded with more responsibility every time they've failed. And Warsh gets that. And he wants to go in and change these things. I think there's going to be an incredibly interesting dynamic between him and Trump. I think he's basically an inflation hawk at core. But I think what we've seen with the interaction with Trump is he gets that he needs to manage this relationship also. And I'm very hopeful that we've got a guy that can accomplish all these things.
Let's go to Alfredo Ortiz, President, Job Creators Network. Go to joinjcn.com for more information, joinjcn.com. One of the leaders in small business advocacy in Washington, D.C. Alfredo, what was your opinion of this move?
Well, on this one, 100% aligned with what Todd said, and literally about the best thing I can say on this one is ditto. Great pick. I love Kevin Hassett. He's a great guy. It's tough, right? Because he's in a very needed position as well for the president. So, look, the way I see it is the president now has two incredible folks advising him on economic policy, plus Steve Moore and others. So from my perspective, this is a great win. Warsh has a lot of experience in monetary policy, a deep experience as a previous Fed governor during really some pretty hairy economic times. And he does, I think, understand the relationship that he's going to need to have with the president, even though it's an independent institution. I think he understands that government, money printing is really the driver of inflation, not economic growth. Mm-hmm. And so I think having him there is a really, really great thing for our economy.
What is your forecast here going forward of the job market and all these investments we're getting in? A lot of people saying, yeah, Trump keeps saying we got, $6 billion, $10 billion, $13 billion. $1 trillion of new manufacturers, plants coming and jobs coming, but we're not seeing them. Give us your assessment on that, Alfredo.
Yeah, I mean, look, this was the plan all along. I mean, I think when Trump set out during his second administration, right at the beginning, is more jobs for more Americans, right? For more American workers, and bringing those jobs back to America was one of the primary reasons why I think he instituted a lot of the tariffs as well. To have kind of basically negotiating power and getting those jobs back and literally trillions of dollars of investment back in the U.S. It is going to take time. right? I mean, those things don't come overnight. You run into a lot of local issues as much as the federal government wants to move on stuff. They run into a lot of municipalities that maybe aren't as excited about having an AI generation, power plant next door or something like that. So there is going to be some delays there. I truly hope that in this particular case, all municipalities, a lot, especially in the blue states, realize that this is a good thing to have these kinds of investments come to the U.S., to have American workers, have those American jobs. My concern, John, and I've said this all along, is that there's a skill set mismatch, though. There's a lot of workers right now, and workers that are being displaced by AI that need to be retrained and retooled for this new economy. The new jobs that are coming over, manufacturing jobs, are not the old manufacturing jobs that left years and years ago off to China. These are sophisticated jobs that require an understanding of AI and how to use AI. And so we're going to have to figure out, I think, some kind of a quasi-government, public-private type of, enterprise or something that retools and retrains our workers to make sure that they're ready for what's coming.
What do you think about that, Todd? With Alfredo just said that we're going to have a massive retraining opportunity as AI takes jobs away, and the available workers we have in the U.S. don't have the skill set to fill them. I mean, that was one of the reasons why we got into the big debate about President Trump increasing H-1B visas, which I'm not in favor of.
Yeah, well, I agree with almost everything Alfredo said. I mean, I think that, as we've talked about before, I think going back to last summer, we were very concerned, legitimately so, that the job growth slowdown that we were seeing could be the sign of an impending recession here. And now we've had 2 very strong quarters of GDP, which tell us that a recession is very unlikely, and that more than anything else, this is probably an indicator that it's just a matter of time before the jobs start showing up. And I think the AI is one issue. Another thing that you hear a lot about, this more in the larger companies, is there's a lot of layoffs going on just because they went through this big buildup post-COVID where there was a big hiring binge and that kind of thing. So there's always so many factors going on that it's very hard to isolate exactly where things are coming from. I think the one thing that's clear is if we can keep growing GDP at the kind of levels we've seen in the last couple quarters, the jobs are going to come. And when the jobs start coming, with unemployment still relatively low, it's not like we're up at 6, 7, 8% unemployment, right, then there is going to be a demand coming from the companies to get the workers who can do the jobs that are needed. And I think those are the kind of things that force change to happen. It's very hard for politicians to sit out there and figure out exactly where things are going to go. But when the growth goes and the jobs come and the employers can't find the jobs that they need to make more money and make their business grow, then there will be all kinds of pressure on how can we train people, how can we get the right people in the right places and all that kind of thing. And I think that's when the kind of thing that Alfredo's talking about will really start clicking in, because there'll be so much demand for it, like you can't ignore it kind of thing.
And John, I think, the other thing I want to just add to that too, I think a lot of the growth in jobs is actually going to not come from large businesses, but from small businesses. I think two provisions that are in the one big beautiful bill that were game changers for our small businesses was the immediate expensing, which, as you know, you and I have talked about this multiple times, huge game changer. I mean, I know businesses were ready to invest. They were waiting for that July 4th signature. And they had plans in place. So remember, 2/3 of new job growth is actually in the hands of small businesses. And so with that, plus a 20% tax deduction, business deduction there for small businesses, these are game changers that I really, really think is going to stimulate our small business economy, which really has been hurting, especially under the Biden administration and especially under the gross inflation that existed under Biden. And so I think small businesses are actually going to see what's going to really lead the way for that kind of economic boom that we saw during the first Trump administration, where small businesses also led that boom.
Well, we're in that category, Alfredo. You and I have talked, and Todd, many times, gentlemen. Ann and I own a small business, 23 radio stations, a media company, and we had things we had to buy that we waited until he signed that bill on July 4th, because you gotta plan for it, and you got to borrow the money on some of the bigger equipment that we needed that we had put off, and so now we're going to get the benefit of those deductions this year, which means that our tax liability, cash out of pocket, right? Because that's, when you have a small business, when you look at your tax liability, you put your money away per quarter, and then there's a reconciliation, right? And then that reconciliation is normally you got to pay more. That's basically what it is. It's not like you get anything back. So, sometimes you do, but it's like, okay, here's what we put away, and now we got another, pick a number, 20,000, we're going to have to pay. Well, say with the deductions, we don't have to pay that. Well, where do you think that money goes? Well, you're going to go on vacation. No, we're not. It's business money. So we got something we got to buy. We're going to do that. We got somebody we got to hire. We're going to do that. We have another contractor we really need, but we haven't done it. We're going to spend it on that. We're going to invest it in something rather than give it to the federal government because we didn't have to pay it, because we got the benefit of the full deduction, which we paid for. So it's you have no idea. Nobody has any idea the dynamic that is going to go into small businesses. You nailed it, over the next 6 months, when their tax liability has been reduced dramatically and they already paid for the equipment. So this is the thing that people don't understand. And small businesses, they don't take this money and put under a mattress, right? You do something with it. That's why you're a small business owner. All that's coming. This is why when I said earlier, the Democrats are jumping up and down on the bed. They're, yay, we're won Texas, plus 31. It's going to be a blowout. We're going to win 100 seats. Yay. 9 months, guys, long time. Reaction, Todd, to what I just said.
Yeah, look, I completely agree. I mean, if this economy gets going and, we have a booming job market, and it doesn't even have to happen in the next couple of months, but if it happens in the next 6 to 7 to 8 months kind of time frame, that just changes everything. And this is the old James Carville had, the great saying, it's the economy, stupid. All these other things going on, they're very important. They're taking everybody's attention. But if the jobs are happening and people feel confident about the future, and they finally feel like, as Alfredo was saying, after 4 years under Biden, and the truth of the matter is this goes back much longer than that. We've been dealing with an economy for 25 years that hasn't delivered for working class and middle class America and small business America. Mm-hmm. And if they start to feel like they're going to participate, changes everything. That is the key dynamic. The one thing I'd add, I would love to see Trump get these tariffs buttoned down, the Supreme Court to make their decision and create some certainty so businesses know their costs, like we've talked about. I think, to me, that's the one other element. I'd be curious to hear Alfredo's comment about that.
Yeah, I mean, Todd, you're absolutely right on that one. I mean, it's, we're getting so close to that certainty. We'll see what the Supreme Court says about that. But I know uncertainty is not good for business. We all know that. It's hard to model, hard to forecast, hard to hire when you have uncertainty. So nailing that down is going to be important. But yeah, I think you're going to have a really strong economy leading into the midterms.
How do you think?
Having said that, John, there's still stuff that we can do better as a party to make sure that those midterms go our way.
We have a party? I didn't realize it.
In Virginia, right? Don't we have a great party in Virginia?
No, we don't have a party in Virginia. We have a bigger. I got to tell you guys, we have a bigger party, Republican Party in Washington D.C., where we get 7% of the vote than we have in Virginia. We actually have a party. We got like people. We got meetings. We got speakers. We got petition signings. We've got events. I don't know what the hell they're doing in there. We got early voting. They got nothing. So I just want to say that. But look, what do you guys think? I mean, you look at the results in Texas. on top of everywhere else where he got blown out. It's getting worse. I mean, Alfredo, can we turn this around before November?
Well, we need to.
That's not my question. Can we?
I don't know. So this wouldn't be the first time that the Republican Party messes up, and so I think with the right folks, hopefully advising the right people, we'll be messaging correctly soon. Hopefully, I think we've kind of have been fumbling this football for a couple of plays at least, and hopefully we'll do better after the halftime show.
That's not exactly a powerful a powerful rendition of how we're going to turn it around.
That was one of the best two steps I could do right now.
That's the best you could do, other than saying, no, we're going to get wiped out if this thing doesn't change. Todd, what do you think? I mean, there's all kinds of problems here, right? I mean, number one, messaging sucks, right? No doubt about it. It absolutely sucks. Number two, it's just a lack of communication. I mean, the fake news. Look, I'm in the White House press room every day with the fake news media. I mean, they're in overdrive. I mean, they're saying the same thing every day on every network and every paper over and over and over and over. Every blog, they say the same thing over and over and over. And we don't seem to have a method of clear communication to even put out the messaging, which is bad anyway. How do we fix this, Todd, in 9 months, like having a baby?
As we're talking about this, I mean, for better or worse, and most of the time it's been for better, Trump is the message and Trump is the messenger. And I think the Republicans and the administration, they have made some mistakes here. I mean, that's a reality, as Alfredo was saying, and as you're saying, in focus, in allowing things to gain the focal point of coverage and take the eye off the ball and all that kind of thing. That's happened. But I think, Trump is going to have to lead the team to get focused on the right things and get these other issues off the front page and, out of the nightly news so that we can get everybody focused on the things that are going to really change things longer term. And we've got to understand the far left knows this is not your average confrontation with George Bush 1 or George Bush 2. They are up against Ronald Reagan, Donald Trump, total regime change. Somebody who is trying to turn around everything that they have been trying to do for the last 30 years in this country, socially, politically, culturally, economically. And they're going to fight with everything they have, and they're going to use every opportunity that they can to try and turn this into whatever, to make it look like a mess and a disaster. That's the only chance they have. It's like the first Trump period. They had COVID and then the George Floyd protests that blossomed, and they ran with that all the way through the election, and they're going to try and do that again with the midterms here. And I think the administration's got to figure that out and say, how can we counter it so we don't end up in the same place that they did last time when this happened?
How did they do that, Alfredo?
How did they win last time?
No, how did they get out of this? The Democrats basically taking this one message for 9 months all the way to November, the way they did with COVID in 2020.
Yeah, I mean, look, John, it's. I've been having conversations with folks about this for the past many months. We clearly should have been winning this affordability conversation. I mean, what was achieved in the One Big Beautiful Bill and all the elements of it are clearly going to make the American worker, the American voter, the American overall citizen better off. And we let ourselves get distracted with a couple of news cycles, government shutdowns, stuff like that. And we just took our eye off what we were supposed to communicate, which is the benefits of the One Big Beautiful Bill. Now they want to call it the Working American, whatever. So I can't even remember exactly what they want to call it. I still call it the One Big Beautiful Bill. But we just need to talk need to keep talking about that and all the benefits of it, and keep selling on the, this idea of affordability. Look at the price of gasoline. I mean, it's just, it's just that
I mean,
alone.
prices are coming down, not to the extent like Todd and I have talked about this before. The Biden inflation was 12, 13%. Now the Trump inflation is under 2%. So it's like, wow, but the 13% is still, but the 13% is still there.
Yeah, and that, John, I think it was one of their biggest mistakes on this one, is saying that, we're gonna just drive prices back down. I think the appropriate thing would have been basically say, we're gonna stop this massive increase of inflation you're gonna feel, and we're gonna stabilize prices, right? Because to have deflation, first of all, is really bad. To have have a presidency that rides on deflation, which is basically what you're promising. We're saying we're going to go back to those prices. It was stabilizing inflation, right? Which is what he did, and it's reasonable now, right? I mean, it's 2.5 whatever percent. That's reasonable, right? What we do need to have, bottom line though, is real wage growth. And I think by a lot of the border security measures, by driving American workers and American jobs and making that a focal point, and then the increase in economic demand, you are going to see rising wages, real wages, right? And that is what Todd was saying, for example, come September, October, that is what you want to focus on and start saying, now the American is actually better off. We got through the Biden era inflation, which has been killing you. We stabilized prices and we gave you real wage growth.
Exactly. Well, that's where I think the messaging fell apart. But Todd, I want to get to one of our, as Republicans' biggest issues. Trump's biggest issue was immigration, and closing the border. Obviously, has been a home run. It's an A+. Nobody's getting in, so that's been a clear, tremendous victory. But in the first year of the deportations of the 20 million people that are here illegally, everybody was focused on, the administration was focused on criminals. And like the American public was okay with that, right? They voted for Trump, 77 million. They wanted people deported. They saw the criminals getting out. We had this one guy, the Maryland man or something, guy trafficked, bodies around. So everybody got that. But now they're seeing on their TV, on somebody's phone, the reality of deporting illegals that are here illegally that have not committed a crime. And they don't like it. They want it, but then they see it. They're like, I don't really like that. I don't really like you going to Home Depot and snatching somebody. And, he's here. He's trying to get a job. I don't know what he's doing. And maybe he's on welfare, but, he didn't commit a crime, or she, and that doesn't feel good to me, etc. But that's what he got 77 million votes on, was to get him out. But now getting him out is ugly, and people don't want to see it on their screens. So what do you do, Todd? I mean, this is the dilemma the president's in, right?
Absolutely. And you know what? I think
have I nailed it?
What's that?
What I just said, is that the reality of the situation? Have I nailed it?
Yeah, I think you absolutely have. And I think the good news is, I think Trump has already done the right thing, is he's put Tom Homan in charge of this. And, I just encourage everybody to go listen to that press conference he gave last week. This is a guy with so much history and experience doing this. And he's saying, look, I'm here to do this and do it the right way. And it can be done the right way. And we can deport the numbers that we need to deport, but we can do it in a way that makes the community safer, and where we're working with the community, and we're not, turning it into this kind of, big kind of disastrous situation that they're dealing with in Minneapolis right now. And to me, that was a very confidence-inspiring thing. And he didn't back down. He didn't say, look, we're only going to do criminals. He said, we are here to remove criminals and focus and make that the priority, but also to remove other illegal aliens. And there's a way that you go about this. And the first one is the community works with us, for example, to go into the jails and the prisons and remove these people when you're in the safest possible environment for doing it, and you reduce the risk of loss of life for local citizens, for the deportees, and for the ICE officers who are involved in all of this. And so to me, I think he's taken the right step. And I think things did get a little too confrontational. That's my sense. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Not because they were doing something wrong, but because they opened the door for the left to play the game that they were inevitably playing, which was to put these people in their faces so much that these kinds of catastrophic confrontations were going to become almost inevitable. And I think if they can back it down a little bit and refocus, then we can get to a point where that those things are less likely to occur. So I think they're going in the right direction there already. I think you nailed it, and I think he's already made the right first step.
Alfredo, I'll give you the final word here on this.
Yeah, well, I mean, you were right, John, and kind of what you were saying there. And look, 70% of the people basically approved of the border security idea. I think the reality of the enforcement technique is a whole different story. And I think I call it just enforcement technique, because I don't know what else to call it. But there's the idea of border security and getting those big bad hombres out of here, right? That's what President Trump promised. The reality of going into the Home Depots and the churches and standing outside of the courts and stuff like that, that reality is playing out on CNN and every other TV show and social media. And I could have told you that if I were on the left, that's exactly what I would have done. I mean, that was such an obvious play that they should have been ready for it. They should have been ready for the PR challenge, call it, which has turned into a nightmare from my perspective that this was. For example, what I would actually do at this point with the billions of dollars now the DHS does have for comms is actually embed an actual comms person with every single raid that is in front of every single camera, in front of every single phone, and is literally saying, let me tell you who the people are that we are going in there to take. And make sure, because right now, guess what? The only people that CNN films are the SWAT gear. The guys in SWAT gear with masks versus the poor little, illegals that are, being chased down, right? And all the horrible stories. And then there's no other sides being told. Why is there not a comms person at every single one of the raids, embedded with each and every single one of these raids that addresses that?
Makes sense. I mean, that's why we're losing. That's why we're losing the message, right? Because you're just getting it one way, and that's what people are seeing, and so they don't like it. I mean, Americans, they voted for it, but then there's voting for it and wanting it and seeing it are very different things.
And honestly, like having the on location left side story and then the White House press conference as the other story. I mean, they're so far apart from each other that our side is never told.
I agree with that. I agree with that because they're using the press briefings, of which I'm there, as you know, every day. They're using the press briefings as the counterpoint, and basically you're up against, there's 149 seats, another 60. There's about 100 people there. 90 of the 100 are far left wing. You got maybe 10 of us that want to tell you the truth. So it's a very difficult environment to be able to do that rather than just do it immediately. So I agree with you on that. Hey guys, great discussion today. Great discussion. Let's I got to see who we've got. Tyler here. Hang on. We've got John McLaughlin, who's on at 8:10. We got Grover coming on. Let's just take for Todd and Alfredo. Let's take two calls. Adrian in Richmond, line 2. You're on with the team here. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Look, you guys are making good points. The last few points you guys said are on the money. We need to have better social media, better everything. But with that being said, I told John, I told this audience that this was going to be ugly when it started happening years ago before he got reelected. I said, this is not going to be pretty. They're not going to be able to jump in front of this, and you got to just suck it up, you know? So with that being said as well, look, guys, I also advocated for President Trump and his team to find a solution for these folks. What I mean is, and nobody wanted to hear it. No, send them all back. Send them all back. So they said, we don't care. We don't care. But now they care. So now they care. We need to strike now. And what I mean is have these people come in and register themselves as illegals, give them a permission to work, find some bullet points to strike back and win these votes, because right now we're not winning. I'm gonna give you a perfect example. I'm a Latino, so I'm very close to the Latino community. I have a good friend's brother, neighbor's brother, who's not officially here legally, but he's working on it. He got raided by ICE, but guess what they did? They let 17 of them go because they had no criminal background. They took like 4 or 5 that did have criminal backgrounds. That's firsthand knowledge right there of what's going on. So the ISIS, and the reason why is what I was told is because it's too much to process these folks. We got to remember that President Biden and company were just letting these folks in. They weren't registering these guys. They were just boom, come on in, and we're doing it right. We're getting their names. We're getting the background checks. We're doing all that. So I'm going to once again, for all those folks who said no, we want them all gone. President Trump needs to have a 15, 20-point book, learn how to speak English in 2 years, maintain a job, don't be a criminal. I mean, anything we can do to help and maybe solve the situation and counter. I know it's not the most popular thing in the world, but we're losing. And we continue to lose because we don't want to help these folks, quote unquote. I don't know what else to tell you guys. We're going to lose on this. If we lose on it, it's going to be on this because we're out there. The Gestapios, the Nazis, oh my gosh, we're over here doing this when we could sit here and counter right now and beat them with their own medicine. But nobody ever wants to tell me why nobody ever wants to do that. What we're doing is not working, then let's try something else. But it's never that way, right? It's always I'm smarter than you, I know better than you. No, I'm in the raza, quote unquote, right? I'm in the Latino, and I'm telling you what I'm hearing and what they're saying. And you guys don't want to do it. Not you guys, but the administration doesn't want to do it because they don't want to look bad. But they're looking bad anyways, John. So what's the difference?
Alfredo?
I have to tell you, I 100% agree with that statement. Just
right?
yesterday.
Thank you, man. Tell them.
No, I do, John. I mean, the off-ramp is needed at this point. The off-ramp is needed. And yes, you know, the strong base is going to bitch and moan about it. Yes, they will. But there has to be some off-ramp, right? Here's one of idea that I had, you know, for each employer that does have illegal aliens, go in there, hit them with a penalty, right? A massive penalty, let's say $10,000 or something like that, whatever. And then, you know those clear tablets or the clear at the airports. I'm sure everybody knows what that is.
Yeah.
You give a clear tablet to each one, a DHS agent, right? Have them register the illegals right there. Have a penalty paid by the employer, a per fine basically per employee, $1,500, whatever, and have them to give them a 3-year work permit basically. But you register them, you biometric them, right? You have the employer basically say, hey, for 3 years, I am guaranteeing you that this person is going to have a job. Right. So there's at least some, because we can't also just say, oh, nope, it's okay that you brought them in so there has to be some kind of penalty, some kind of a fee, but allow these people that do pass still some background check, some level, because we're not going to do this for the criminals, right? The absolute criminals, we want those out. The big bad hombres that President Trump promised, you want out of here, right? That's what he promised, right? But give those people the opportunity. And I think what he said, I like the idea of almost like a frequent flyer program, right? The more American you are, the more points you get. So if you learn how to speak English, American history, you pay your taxes, you don't have, right? You get more points towards becoming an American citizen, not an earned. So you actually earn your citizenship eventually, right? But let's start with an off-ramp right now with that does have some kind of a teeth to the employer. But I can guarantee you right now, John, based on the hundreds of phone calls now that I'm getting in text from different employers, and I've brought this up with each one of them, they go, no problem. I love my employees. I will do that. We can go ahead and take care of this. It's not, everyone's not going to love it, but it is an off-ramp that kind of makes sense that also registers all these, rather than saying, we're going to go ahead and deport all
So
of them.
you're both right. I mean, you're both right. And I get Todd here in a second. Then we got another caller. Adrian, thank you. Outstanding. It's kind of like what you said about the inflation and what I said earlier about Epstein. The expectations were set differently with the base. They were set differently. And when you miss expectations, things start falling apart for you in a lot of different levels, right? So the base doesn't have that expectation. Their expectation was 20 million people are going to get removed from the country that are here illegally. So that's what's depressing turnout. So you have a viable solution, but that wasn't sold to Trump voters in 24. Here's what was sold to them. We're getting them out. Okay? Vote for this guy. We're getting them out. Now we don't want to get them out. And then we're like, well, I voted for that. Well, we also voted to close the border. We did that 100%. So, we've got to figure out how we're going to modify this. What you said makes sense, but the base is not buying it. And then in Texas, they stay home and we have a 31-point swing because we can't get our people out. This is the dilemma that we have. And it's not easy, man. We're in a tough road. I'm going to bring in, and Todd, hang in there. Cause I got to get to Grover here in a minute. I want to bring in, Anthony in Florida. Anthony, you're on with Alfredo and Todd. Anthony, go ahead.
Let me tell you something. The caller is wrong, and you two are wrong, and John, you are wrong. Let me tell you something. I'm the base. It was told to us, if you're here illegally, you are going back. How dare you? You know what's wrong? Because you guys executed a plan, then you took your foot off the pedal. You stopped. What you're seeing is the lack of tactics and planning. If they all go back, they are all spoiled. If you're here illegally, that is a felony unto itself. How dare you? Like I said, you guys go ahead with that plan, and we will hand you your butts on a plate. How dare you think? Oh, if they learn English. No, we had to take it. They shoved it down our throats. I got tired of Mayorkas and that administration and the Border Patrol cutting the wire, lifting them up, hordes and hordes of illegals flooding across this border. I was born here. I served this country. Citizenship, American citizenship, has meaning. This is why we lose, because of the feckless half-and-half Republicans that are running this party. How dare you? If you go through with this plan, you guys are done. Everybody goes back. That was what we were told. Trump was given an overwhelming mandate. He won all three, the popular, everything. He was given a mandate, and it was clear. All means all, and that's what it means. Everybody goes back. I don't care if you want to learn English, go out, then come back.
Good segue. Good segue to what I said, which is the base is not buying it, and they're not turning out. And so that's the dilemma you've got. Todd, I'm going to give you the final word on this because Anthony, the caller that was just talking about, the base is unhappy. That's not what they voted for. They didn't vote for whatever Alfredo said, do these 6 things. They didn't vote for that. They voted for deportation. 20 million came in, got to get 20 million out. That was the expectation. Now it's not happening. And the base is telling you they're unhappy by not showing up in election after election. There's like 10 of them. They just don't turn out. Virginia, New Jersey, now this debacle, this thing in Texas is a total debacle, right? They're just not turning out. We had one in Pennsylvania. I could go down the line, Georgia, etc. So Todd, what do you do? I mean, Anthony nailed it. They're not coming out if you don't get them out of here. And yet the optics are bad. So what do we do, Todd?
Yeah, I think, the reality is, I think they had the high ground on this issue from the beginning, obviously. I think they made big tactical mistakes in going after it in a way that was too aggressive and confrontational, which not because they were doing the wrong thing. They were enforcing the law. That's all fine. But they played into the left's hands, who were trying to use this to create the kind of circumstances we saw in Minnesota. I think in Minnesota, they made an additional mistake in that they should have gone in after the waste, fraud, and abuse and kept all the focus on that issue instead of creating a chance or an opportunity for the left to divert everybody's attention away from that and onto this. So that's history. That's what we've got to deal with. Both sides of the calls that we've heard are very legitimate perspectives, and they need to find a middle ground. The middle ground I would suggest is we are going after the criminals and the people with a record, and we are trying to clean up the Biden disaster. That puts a fence around this. That means we are focusing on the people who Biden let into this country indiscriminately. If it's more than 4 years ago, yeah, there's an issue. That's not our focus. We'll do something with that later. Right now, we want to get the criminals and the other 10 to 20 million people that Biden let into this country in a way that has caused all these problems. And then maybe we can pull things back to where we're focused on things that everybody agrees with again. That would be and do it the Holman way, which is in the way that tries to involve the greatest spirit of cooperation possible.
Well, you could call it
when the Democrats aren't cooperating, it puts the focus of the problem back on them. Why aren't you helping us?
Well, yeah. I mean,
that's what we've got to get back to.
We got to get out, but you can do it the DeSantis way. I mean, Governor DeSantis last week came out with he just said, look, I have deported more people out of Florida than any state in America. Have you seen one incident on TV? No. Why? Because I'm not a sanctuary state. We don't allow sanctuary cities. And so all of our local law enforcement has to cooperate with ICE, and that's how we keep the peace and do the right thing. Oh, DeSantis got it figured out, but then when you have these states that have sanctuary cities, sanctuary states, that's when all this issue happens. Guys, great discussion. Want to thank our callers, Anthony and Adrian. Want to thank Alfredo and Todd for being with us. Alfredo, people want to follow you and Job Creators Network. Where do they go?
Joinjcn.com.
And Todd Sheets, Substack, right? It's still free?
Yeah, so it's still free. It's probably free forever. Substack, or go to YouTube or Apple Music or Spotify for the short audio-visual version.
You and I, the only two Substackers in America that have it for free. Ann said to me, this is God's honest truth on yesterday or Monday, right? Is that, yeah, Monday. She says, when are we going to start charging for Substack? And I said, I'll charge for Substack when Todd Sheets charges for it. It's a great answer. I had a great out. She's like,
I hope the economy isn't dependent on that, John.
Hey, John, and tell my friends McLaughlin and Grover hi for me.
Well, they're coming out right now. I tell you what, you're welcome to stay if you want. We got Grover on now. Let's bring Grover in